problems connecting with him. But that doesn't mean we're not going to do a weekly review. So we do have another guest willing to give us his opinion on a certain album, and we will pass on to him in just a second. Hello there, Bill. How are you
Hi,
doing?
Carl. I'm good, thanks. And you?
I'm okay.
Good.
So thank you for stepping in, because
No
I really
problem.
could not contact Stuart today. I hope everything is okay. He usually does our reviews for Global Music Club. As you know, he did review the Real Beavers album from your band. Okay.
Yeah, very nice. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And
great.
I'm really looking forward to his sessions as well. But I know we will have fun today as well. And so I know I contacted you like on short notice, but I also do know that you have a great knowledge of music and you know your music. So, what are you getting us today? What album would you like to present
Well,
to us?
because it was last minute, I had to pick an album I know well. So I've chosen Lou Reed and John Cale's Song for Drella album, which was released in 1990. So it's 30 years old. So there's a good reason for talking about it as well. And basically, what's really good about this album, it's the first time that they got together since since John Cale left the Velvet Underground. So anybody who knows the Velvet Underground, they'll know the story anyway. So it was quite a momentous occasion for them to get together. And the reason they got together was because Andy Warhol had passed, who was obviously very influential for Lou and John. And again, people know the story about the factory and Andy Warhol, etc. I don't need to say too much, but for those who aren't too knowledgeable about it, basically the Velvet Underground were a band that were formed in the factory. Basically, they probably most famous album is the Banana album, which is the cover, which is what Andy Warhol did, and apparently produced it, but that's kind of an ironic thing. Anyway, let's jump to the album.
I am sort of playing it very low in the background so people can.
Okay, great. Okay, I can't hear it, but so I don't know which parts you're playing. But basically, it is like a tribute to Andy Warhol. And basically, the first time they performed it was actually live. It was in 1989 in a theatre, which is actually filmed, which is actually probably better than the actual studio album, in my opinion. And it is available on YouTube, so you can find it on YouTube, the live performance of Songs for Drella. But anyway, Lou Reed, let's go to Lou Reed first. I'm a massive fan of Lou Reed, and in 1989, he just released New York, which was really, for many Lou Reed fans, he was back on track again, writing amazing material. You know, music for grown-ups sounds a bit twee, that does, but he started writing really what we call adult music. He always has done. He's always written incredible lyrics, very mature lyrics, almost like he calls them like novels in songs. He always wanted to write like a short story in a song, and this is very much in that vein. It's a lot of it's taken from Andy Warhol's diaries, and both Lou and John Cale. Let's talk about John Cale for a bit. John Cale also had still does have an amazing solo career, and he's worth checking out if you're not familiar with his stuff as well. But yeah, they both on this really. I would suggest anyone who wants to know anything about Andy Warhol, just listen to this album. You don't even need to read a book, a biography on him. It's all here. These are the people who knew him well, and they just really capture Andy Warhol's personality, his character, just what he was like. There's some wonderful lines in it. It's very funny in parts as well. But if we go to the first track, Small Town, which it's kind of like they're imagining that they are Andy Warhol sometimes. So they speak as if they are Andy Warhol, telling his story. Small Town is about how he was brought up in Pittsburgh, and how he being what they say in the song, being a fat, gay, and ugly, living in a small town, was obviously very difficult for him. And there's only one good thing about a small town, as the line goes, is that you hate it and you want to leave. So he obviously, you can imagine in the 40s, the early 50s, being gay, and in his own opinion, not a very attractive man, but that was his own opinion on himself. He felt ugly, and because of his sexuality, that he wanted to get out of that town, I guess, and obviously went to New York and became, I don't need to explain Andy Warhol to most people, this amazing artist and thinker, and I think one of the most brilliant minds, especially with regards to ideas.
I think we owe him all the pop movement.
Yes, definitely. Yeah. Oh God, everything. He introduced irony into America, at least, and as we all know, with irony, you can fall back on anything. So. Yeah, he was a superb artist. I don't know if you can see the cover very well. I've only got the CD here.
Yeah.
But behind actually is an image of Andy Warhol, and for Velvet fans, who Velvet fans would know this album very well, they've kind of done the same trick as they did on the Lightweight Heat album, which is an arm with a tattoo on. So if you put it to the light, you can actually see Andy Warhol's face behind them, which is quite a nice touch. But anyway, let's look at the music. It's very last minute this, so I'm going off on tangents. But what I love about the album, it's a very rhythmical album, and without any drums in it or percussion. There's no drums or percussion in it, but there's such a great rhythm to it, which shows very clearly what a great rhythm guitar player Lou is, and what a great pianist Cale is. He's always had very good rhythm anyway. There's viola on it as well. Lou, I think, on this album has never sounded better. Some people do criticize him for his talk singing, as it were, and he sings in peculiar places. He doesn't sing right on the beat.
Yeah, some people even say that he does not sing.
Exactly.
He does not sing.
Yeah, which is fair enough. I can understand that. They say the same about Dylan. But if they understand that, how I hear Lou Reed, and I think most people have said this about him, he's like a confidant, and he speaks in your ear. He's like he's on your shoulder.
He's a storyteller as well.
Totally, yeah, and telling you these stories, and only you're the only listener. You're in his world when you listen to him. Yeah, he's just talking to you like a book. Like very intimate. But as I say, as well as just being a great lyricist, and in my opinion, he is a great singer. He also, his guitar playing is, again, probably not recognised because it's not like a flashy and technical. Steve Vai and people like that, who I like as well. It's. But people like him and Neil Young, I think, to an extent, aren't really recognised for being great guitarists. They can do so much with little chords, like
I believe there's, sorry to interrupt, as far as Lou Reed is concerned, I think there's sort of a Brechtian effect there, where the musical part is a bit more boring, let's say, so that people pay more attention to content, what used to be called the Verfremdungs effect, the strange effect in Brecht. So I think Lou Reed works a bit like that.
Yeah, too. I mean, boring maybe. I wouldn't use that word.
Boring in the sense that there's.
I understand. Yeah.
Not much rhythm, not much. Not
it's
boring.
kind of spent. Yeah, I mean, I think when he first come out, it's like what Bowie was trying to do. David Bowie was trying to do as well. Was kind of anti-music. It was kind of you know, and I think it was very part of that. There's Stories of Lou just turning on the Transformer album, and especially Sally Can't Dance. You know, drugged to his eyeballs and just goes in, does a vocal and leave. You know, his attitude kind of very. But as he got older and matured, he became very musical knowledgeable. You know, he became very knowledgeable of music and sound. He, you know, very technical. I'm not a muso, so when he started doing that, I was a bit disappointed. I like the fact that if they asked him what drum this is, he would say it's a black one. You know, I kind of like that attitude. So when he started becoming a bit too muso, I thought, oh, you know, come on, Lou. You know, I like that idea that he's too cool for school. You know, like you know. But yeah, his later years. But saying that, he when he got more technical, more knowledge of music and how things work and sound, and he was a pioneer in those things, even in the late 70s with albums like Street Hassle and The Bells, using binaural sound. I think that's what it's called. I've forgotten that. Binary sound. Sorry.
Binary.
Yeah. So he was pioneering that, you know, on those albums. So that was good in one way. That maybe when he's more into sound, that interests me. But when he starts talking about guitars, I fall asleep. I'm not interested in that. But his songwriting got really strong. Songs for Drella is proof of that. And John Cale, let's not take away what John Cale contributes to this album as well. Again, John Cale, another one, people hear him say he's not a very good singer. Again, and because he's very Welsh, you know, he just sounds very. And the Welsh are known for being great singers, you know, like for especially, you know, kind of. But Cale is more, again. He
does know his piano though.
Yeah, he's just raw, you know. He's a raw, and again, he has that voice that's. How do you explain it? It's like David Bowie. It's kind of cold, but emotional as well. It's kind of it's a strange voice. It's just real, I guess. They're very real, and but can be cold and emotional at the same time. But yeah, so Songs for Drella, they got back together. They fell out again, obviously, afterwards, and then they met up again in the early 90s for VU revival, reunion. So. But they kept falling out. Hopefully they were talking before Lou Reed passed away in 2013. But I think when you see, especially if you see the footage of this album, the live performance, which I said you can find on YouTube, for example,
it is actually the one that's playing.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. Which, as I said before, I think actually sounds better than the studio album. Taking nothing away from the studio album.
You can find it by typing in Songs for Drella, Reed Cale, 1990.
There we go. And it's, and you can see their relationship there. There's a bit of, you can see there intensity, some kind of antagonism there. Yeah. And but I kind of like that. I think it makes the record more, you know, more real, I guess. There's something real going on in there. I don't need to explain. People can look up about the background story on the record. I don't want to go too much detail in it.
Yeah, but it's definitely an album that you would recommend everyone to listen to.
Yeah, and then after that, you can Magic and Loss, because that was another Lou Reed's album. After this was about Doc Pomus, great songwriter, wrote for Elvis Presley, and again some songs about Andy Warhol there. So. Lou Reed, on this album, and then Magic and Loss was actually, I think one of the first albums to be about grief, about people dying from the dying person's own perspective, and then his own perspective on the situation, how he feels and what he sees. Beautiful albums, this one and Magic and Loss. This one has more humour in, there is humour in it, but by the end of it, the end of it is heartbreaking. Every time I hear it, there's you know, that's how it just makes me really emotional, this album, and hopefully if people aren't aware of it, listen to it, you probably get back into Andy Warhol again, understand Andy Warhol a lot better, and hopefully appreciate Lou Reed a lot more than just, you know, Perfect Day and Walk on the Wild Side. He's the master, and
he is so much more than that.